October 16, 1941. Odessa, Soviet Ukraine. A cold wind slides through shattered apartment blocks, carrying the smell of brick dust, cordite, and the Black Sea beyond the harbor. Somewhere in the ruins, a rifle bolt moves with a sound no louder than a breath held too long. Senior Sergeant Lyudmila Mikhailivna Pavlichenko presses her cheek into the stock of her Mosin Nagant M 1891/30, the wood scarred, the metal dull from weeks of constant use. Through the PU scope, the world narrows to a rectangle of rubble and broken tram rails. Below, German infantry pick their way forward cautiously, boots crunching on glass and plaster. They do not know they are already being watched. You can hear it before you see it, the city groaning. Walls shift. A loose door bangs somewhere in the wind. Every sound threatens to betray a position. Pavlichenko does not move. She has been still for hours, her body molded into the ruins as if she were another fallen beam. Then a helmet tilts. A field-gray figure steps into open ground. The shot cracks once. The German soldier collapses before the echo finishes bouncing through the ruins. There is no cheering, no celebration, only silence and the knowledge that somewhere unseen death is waiting again. By the autumn of 1941, the Red Army is fighting for survival. Operation Barbarossa has smashed across the Soviet border with terrifying speed. Entire armies have been encircled. Cities burn. Odessa, a port of strategic and symbolic value, is under siege by Axis forces, primarily Romanian units supported by German advisors and artillery. And into this chaos steps something the German army did not expect. Women. Not nurses. Not clerks. Snipers. The Soviet Union, desperate for manpower and driven by ideology, has opened combat roles to women on a scale unseen in any other army of the war. Thousands volunteer. Many are young. Many are educated. Some, like Pavlichenko, have fired rifles long before the war, hunting, sport shooting, or paramilitary training through OSOAVIAKHM clubs. Pavlichenko is 25 years old, a history student before the invasion, slight in build, calm to the point of unsettling her male comrades. When she reports for duty, officers try to assign her as a nurse. She refuses. She demands a rifle. They test her. 2 Romanian soldiers appear in the distance during a training exercise. Pavlichenko drops both with precise shots. The argument ends there. Now, in Odessa's ruins, she learns what it truly means to be a sniper. This is not marksmanship on a range. This is patience measured in days. Hunger. Thirst. The ache of muscles locked into unnatural positions. Lice crawling under uniforms. The sun baking rubble by day, cold seeping into bones by night. German and Romanian troops begin to notice something is wrong. Patrols go out and do not return. Officers fall with single wounds to the head or throat. Men are hit while lighting cigarettes, while peering through binoculars, while crouching behind what they believe is solid cover. They call it invisible fire. They do not yet know that many of those shots are coming from women. Pavlichenko keeps count, not out of pride, but because her commanders demand it. Each confirmed kill requires witnesses or recovered bodies. The numbers climb steadily. 20, 30, 50. She learns to read the battlefield like a living thing. Rubble that looks untouched is often occupied. A glint that lasts a fraction too long might be a scope lens. German snipers, now sent specifically to hunt her, play a deadly game of patience. One duel lasts 3 days. She does not fire. Neither does her opponent. They wait, each knowing that the first mistake means death. On the 3rd day, Pavlichenko notices something wrong, a piece of debris that should cast a shadow but does not. She fires. The duel ends. Word spreads. Among Soviet troops, she becomes a legend whispered about in trenches and cellars. Among German soldiers, something darker takes shape, a superstition. A belief that the ruins themselves are hostile, that windows have eyes, that walls are listening. And Pavlichenko is not alone. Across the Eastern Front, from Leningrad to Sevastopol, hundreds of women are being trained at the Central Women's Sniper Training School near Moscow. They learn camouflage, stalking, ballistics, and most critically, how to erase themselves from the landscape. They are taught to become ghosts. German doctrine has not prepared for this. Female combatants are rare to non-existent in Wehrmacht experience. Captured documents and later testimonies reveal disbelief, even outrage. Some German units issue orders singling out female snipers for immediate execution if captured. Fear sharpens hatred. In Odessa, the city continues to fall apart around Pavlichenko. Artillery pounds the outskirts. Buildings she used as firing positions, one week are reduced to rubble the next. Each day the battlefield rearranges itself, creating new killing grounds. She adapts. She always adapts. By the time Soviet forces evacuate Odessa, Pavlichenko's tally has reached levels that make even seasoned officers uneasy. She is transferred to Sevastopol, where the war will become even more brutal, and where German fear of unseen Soviet snipers will harden into obsession. The ruins have learned to kill, and they are just getting started. November 2, 1941. Sevastopol, Crimean Peninsula. Dawn creeps in pale and colorless, revealing a city already stripped to bone. The harbor lies choked with sunken ships. Fortifications from the Tsarist era jut from the hills like broken teeth. Above it all, German artillery begins its morning work, a slow, deliberate pounding meant to crush both concrete and morale. Senior Sergeant Lyudmila Pavlichenko moves before first light. Not walking, sliding. Crawling. Every inch gained costs minutes. The limestone dust coats her uniform until she is indistinguishable from the ground itself. By the time the shelling pauses, she is already in position. Sevastopol is not Odessa. Here, the Germans are prepared. The 11th Army under General Erich von Manstein is systematic, patient, professional. They know the value of artillery. They know the value of snipers. And now, increasingly, they know the danger of Soviet women with rifles. Pavlichenko settles into a shallow depression overlooking a ravine German troops must cross to reach the next Soviet defensive line. She has measured distances the night before. 300 meters to the far rocks. 180 to the broken gun carriage. Wind negligible. Temperature cold enough to steady the air. She waits. Hours pass. Your legs go numb. Blood slows. The temptation to shift, even slightly, grows unbearable. She does not move. Sniping here is not about marksmanship. It is about outlasting the battlefield itself. A German non-commissioned officer appears, waving men forward. Pavlichenko tracks him calmly, breath-slowing finger taking up slack. The shot hits just below the helmet rim. The officer drops backward, arms flailing, and the ravine explodes into confusion. She does not fire again. That is the lesson Sevastopol teaches quickly. One shot is often enough. Panic does the rest. German troops begin responding with counter-sniper tactics. They send decoys, helmets on sticks, mirrors tied to rubble, even wounded men forced to move into open ground. Pavlichenko learns to read hesitation, posture, intent. A real soldier moves differently, breathes differently, carries weight. She also learns something darker. The Germans broadcast messages through loudspeakers. Promises of food, of safety, of honorable treatment if she surrenders. Sometimes they try threats instead. She ignores all of it. Soon, enemy snipers begin actively hunting her. Men trained in Poland and France. Veterans with confirmed kills of their own. One, she later recalls, kills several Soviet soldiers deliberately to draw her fire. The duel lasts hours. She spots him only because a bird lands briefly on the edge of his camouflage, then takes off, startled by a movement too slow for untrained eyes. Pavlichenko fires through a narrow gap in the rocks. When Soviet infantry later advance, they find the German sniper exactly where she expected him to be. By the winter of 1941, Pavlichenko's confirmed kill count passes 100. Her reputation spreads along the front. Younger soldiers, men twice her size, watch her with something between awe and disbelief. She speaks little, eats sparingly, sleeps wherever the ground allows. The rifle never leaves her reach. She begins training others. Among them are young women barely out of school. Pavlichenko teaches them not how to kill, but how to survive, how to stay motionless under shellfire, how to choose a firing position that allows retreat, how to suppress the instinct to help wounded comrades when doing so would mean exposing yourself. The hardest lesson is emotional. You cannot look at faces, she tells them. You aim at shapes. German command takes notice. Captured documents later reveal specific orders, referencing Soviet women snipers in Sevastopol. Rewards are offered. Specialized sniper teams are deployed. Artillery is used to collapse likely firing positions, rather than risk advancing. Entire sections of terrain become dead zones, avoided not because they are defended, but because they are watched. For German infantry, the psychological toll is immense. Men hesitate before crossing open ground. Officers bark orders that go unanswered for seconds too long. Every crack of a rifle sends soldiers diving for cover, unsure whether the shot was meant for them, or the man beside them. At night, rumors spread in dugouts. She doesn't miss. She waits for days. She shoots officers first. The idea that a woman is responsible only deepens the unease. Nazi ideology has no room for this reality. The battlefield, however, does not care about ideology. In the spring of 1942, the siege tightens. German artillery grows heavier. Air attacks intensify. Pavlichenko is wounded by mortar fragments, but refuses evacuation until ordered. When she finally leaves the front, her tally stands at 309 confirmed kills, including 36 enemy snipers. She is 25 years old. As she departs Sevastopol, the city still fighting, still bleeding, the German soldiers who survive do not cheer her absence. They know others remain, trained by her, watching the same ravines, memorizing the same rhythms of fear. The ruins are no longer just cover. They are weapons, and the Red Army is about to make sure the world knows it. June 21, 1942. Near Podolsk, outside Moscow. Rain darkens the pine needles and turns the training ground into a sponge of mud and rot. Somewhere in the trees a whistle blows, sharp, final. The women freeze exactly where they are, bodies mid-motion, breath locked in place. Major Ivan Chuganov lowers his binoculars slowly. Good, he mutters. They're learning. This is the Central Women's Sniper Training School, a place the German High Command does not know exists, but already fears the results of. Here, the lessons learned in Odessa and Sevastopol are being formalized, drilled, repeated until they become instinct. Lyudmila Pavlichenko stands off to one side, her arms still bandaged from her wounds. She is no longer just a sniper. She is an instructor, a symbol, and increasingly, a problem the Soviets are trying to keep alive. She watches a pair of trainees crawl through wet underbrush, their rifles wrapped in cloth to muffle accidental noise. One girl's elbow slips slightly. Pavlichenko steps forward, presses her hand down gently but firmly. Again, she says. No anger. No softness either. The school's curriculum is brutal. Physical training in the morning. Fieldcraft all day. Shooting only after exhaustion has set in, because that is when it matters. They learn to build hides from nothing. To urinate into cloth rather than move. to let ants crawl over exposed skin without flinching. They learn how ruins behave. Brick dust settles in patterns after shelling. Fresh rubble is lighter in color. A wall that collapses differently from the rest might conceal a firing slit. A shattered staircase can channel sound upward like a chimney. Urban warfare, Pavlichenko explains, is not chaos. It is geometry. The trainees keep notebooks, though many cannot write well under stress. Diagrams of streets, angles of fire, notes about wind behavior between buildings. One writes simply, "Never fire twice from the same place." Many of these women have already lost family. Homes burned. Villages erased. Some arrive with rage so visible it threatens to consume them. Pavlichenko pulls them aside, one by one. "Anger makes you fast," she tells them. "Fast makes you dead." By mid-1942, graduates of the school are being sent to every major front. Leningrad, where snipers work from frozen rooftops. Stalingrad, still months away from becoming a legend, where rubble will soon swallow entire armies. The Caucasus, where mountain air turns long shots into science. German after-action reports begin to change tone. Where once they describe enemy snipers, they now note patterns. Coordinated sniper fire. Officers killed first. Machine gun crews neutralized before attacks. Entire units pinned by unseen marksmen. The word Frauen appears more frequently, sometimes underlined. Fear hardens into policy. German units begin posting warnings. Do not linger near windows. Do not gather in groups. Move only under smoke. Even then, casualties continue. Soviet women snipers are not hunting randomly. They are shaping the battlefield. In Leningrad, sniper Rosa Shanina earns a reputation for doublets, 2 kills with 2 shots in rapid succession. German soldiers whisper that she has preternatural speed. In reality, she has trained to fire on instinct, muscle memory replacing thought. In Stalingrad, women snipers operate from factory ruins, where metal amplifies sound and heat distorts vision. They learn to fire at dawn or dusk when shadows lie. And in each city, the psychological impact multiplies. German soldiers begin firing at shadows, at rubble, at nothing at all. Ammunition runs low. Nerves fray. A battlefield where you cannot see the enemy becomes a battlefield you cannot trust. The Soviets understand this. They encourage it. Propaganda leaflets exaggerate sniper numbers. Kill counts are broadcast. Names are printed. Faces, young, calm, unmistakably female, appear in newspapers. The message is simple: we are everywhere. Pavlichenko herself is pulled from the front permanently. The Soviet leadership cannot afford to lose her. She is sent abroad, touring the United States and Canada, speaking about the war. At one rally in Chicago, she stares down a crowd and says flatly, "Gentlemen, I am 25 years old and I have killed 309 fascist occupiers. Don't you think you have been hiding behind my back for too long?" The words make headlines. But back at the front, the women she trained continue the work. Quietly, methodically, turning cities into labyrinths of death. By late 1942, German commanders have accepted something they cannot change. The ruins are no longer neutral ground. They belong to the snipers. And soon, at a place called Stalingrad, that lesson will be written in blood on an industrial scale the world has never seen. September 18, 1942. Stalingrad on the Volga River. The city is no longer a city. It is a carcass. Smoke hangs so thick it blots out the sun, turning midday into twilight. The Volga glimmers dully through ash and fire, its crossings raked constantly by artillery. Every building is broken. Every street is a trench. Somewhere beneath the roar of guns, a single rifle bolt slides forward. Junior Sergeant Tatiana Chernova lies wedged inside the skeletal remains of a brick factory wall. Her position overlooks what used to be a workers' square, Now, a killing ground churned into dust by bombs and boots. She has not moved since before dawn. Her lips are cracked. Her fingers are numb. Her rifle is steady. German infantry advance in short rushes, hugging craters, diving behind collapsed masonry. They have learned not to walk. They have learned not to stand. They have not learned how to see her. Stalingrad compresses everything. Distance shrinks. Sound multiplies. Shots echo until direction becomes meaningless. Snipers here fight at ranges of 50 to 300 meters, sometimes less, sometimes close enough to hear the enemy breathe. Chernova tracks a German machine gun crew, setting up behind a fallen tramcar. She does not fire immediately. She waits for the gunner to settle, for the assistant to lean forward with the ammunition belt. 2 shots. 2 bodies. The machine gun never fires. This is how Stalingrad is fought, not with sweeping maneuvers but with erasures. 1 man removed. Then another. Then the unit dissolves. Soviet women snipers operate in pairs or small teams, often working opposite male snipers to create overlapping fields of fire. They share positions in shattered apartments, factories, grain elevators. They rotate hides daily, sometimes hourly, because Stalingrad's rubble shifts constantly under shelling. Camouflage here is an art form. Faces smeared with soot and grease. Rifles wrapped in rags soaked with brick dust. Firing slits carved into walls so narrow they cut the skin when you move. German counter-snipers are everywhere. Some are excellent. Many are desperate. Duels become intimate. Chernova spots a glint in a darkened window across the square. She freezes. Minutes pass. A shell detonates nearby, showering her position with debris. She does not blink. When the glint appears again, just a fraction too slow, she fires. The German sniper slumps out of view. There is no confirmation. No one advances to check. In Stalingrad, you assume the kill, or the city takes you for it. Elsewhere, Rosa Shanina operates near the northern factory districts. She is younger than many of the men she kills. Her letters home describe the city as alive and angry. She earns her reputation here, working under constant bombardment, moving between positions under cover of darkness. German soldiers begin referring to certain sectors as sniper streets. Orders warn against moving without smoke. Even then, casualties mount. Medics are hit. Runners are hit. Officers learn to stay behind walls, sending others forward instead. Fear becomes doctrine. The Soviets exploit it. Snipers deliberately target non-lethal areas, shoulders, legs, to draw medics into the open. Then they wait. The battlefield responds in kind. German artillery collapses entire buildings suspected of harboring snipers. Rubble becomes both grave and camouflage. A firing position used in the morning may be buried by evening, with its occupants still inside. Women snipers suffer losses too. Friends disappear under concrete. Some are killed by counter-snipers they never see. Others by bombs meant for the buildings themselves. The city does not discriminate. And yet they continue. By November 1942, as Operation Uranus encircles the German Sixth Army, the psychological damage is already done. Units are exhausted. Morale is brittle. Soldiers jump at shadows. Trust in cover is gone. The city has taught them a lesson they will carry long after Stalingrad is lost. Walls can watch. Windows can kill. And somewhere in the ruins, a woman with a rifle is waiting for you to make a mistake. As winter closes in and the noose tightens around the trapped German army, the work of the sniper slows, not because it is no longer needed, but because there are fewer targets willing to move. Stalingrad is dying, and with it, the illusion that war has rules. January 14, 1943. Stalingrad, southern pocket. Snow drifts through shattered windows and settles on bodies that no one has the strength to move. The temperature has fallen below -20. Weapons freeze. Wounds refuse to close. Somewhere in the ruins, a lone rifle fires, not often, not loudly, but enough. Enough to remind the trapped that they are still being watched. The German Sixth Army is collapsing inward. Ammunition is rationed. Food is gone. Command structures exist on paper more than in reality. And yet, sniper warnings remain posted on ruined walls and cellar doors. Do not approach windows. Do not linger. Do not expose officers. Fear has become policy. This is the true legacy of the Soviet women snipers, not just the bodies, but the behavior they changed. Entire units now move differently. They crouch by instinct. They hesitate before crossing streets that once seemed safe. The battlefield has entered their minds. Senior Lieutenant Nina Lobkovskaya adjusts her position inside a bombed-out apartment block. She commands a small sniper detachment, coordinating fire with infantry below. Her voice, when she uses the field telephone, is calm, precise. 2 men near the boiler ruins, officer in rear. She does not need to raise her rifle. One of her trainees does it for her. The shot rings out. The officer falls. This is what the war has become. By 1943, Soviet doctrine formally integrates sniper units into urban operations. Women are no longer novelties. They are assets. Their patience, smaller frames, and willingness to endure immobility are openly acknowledged in reports, stripped of ideology, reduced to effectiveness. German commanders respond with brutality. Captured women snipers are interrogated aggressively. Some are executed immediately. Others are paraded as propaganda trophies. These acts are meant to deter. They do the opposite. Soviet resolve hardens. On the Eastern Front, the ruins keep multiplying. Kharkov, Smolensk, Kiev. Each city repeats the pattern. Bombardment, collapse, occupation, resistance. Snipers arrive early and stay late. They mark buildings not by name, but by angle and light. A shattered school becomes a perfect firing nest. A church tower loses its cross and gains a firing slit. Apartment stairwells become sound funnels that carry footsteps upward like signals. German soldiers learn to fear silence more than noise. At night, women snipers move positions, dragging rifles wrapped in cloth, erasing tracks with branches. They leave behind false hides, disturbed rubble, empty shell casings, to draw counter-sniper fire onto nothing. Sometimes it works too well. Artillery flattens empty buildings. German snipers die shooting at ghosts. The psychological toll compounds. Diaries recovered after the war describe men unable to sleep near windows. Others refuse to remove helmets, even indoors. One soldier writes simply, "The city is against us." By late 1943, the tide has turned decisively. Soviet forces advance westward, carrying their sniper doctrine with them. Women who once trained in forests now work in ruined, polished towns in East Prussia, eventually in Germany itself. The Germans adapt as best they can. But the damage is done. The fear has already been learned, and fear once learned is hard to unlearn. For the women snipers, survival becomes its own victory. Many do not live to see the war's end. Others carry wounds that never heal. Some return home to anonymity, medals tucked into drawers, stories unspoken. But on the battlefield, their impact is undeniable. They changed how cities were fought. They turned ruins into weapons. And they taught an army to fear what it could not see. The war is moving west now. And the snipers are moving with it. April 19, 1945. Outskirts of Berlin. The ground shakes constantly, not from bombs alone, but from the weight of an army that knows the end is near. Smoke coils between shattered apartment blocks. Trees stand splintered like matchsticks. Somewhere in the ruins, a rifle rests against broken masonry, its barrel wrapped in dirty cloth to hide the shine. Senior Sergeant Nina Lobkovskaya peers through her scope at a city that looks hauntingly familiar. Berlin is not Stalingrad, but it is becoming it. The same crushed stairwells, the same gutted rooms, the same smell of old fire and fresh death. The difference is who is advancing now. German defenders, old men, wounded veterans, boys from the Volkssturm, cling to basements and upper floors. They fire Panzerfaust from windows and vanish. Every shot risks drawing the attention of Soviet snipers, who have spent years learning how cities die. Lobkovskaya signals to her team. 2 women shift positions through a breach in the wall, moving like shadows. They do not rush. Berlin rewards patience just as ruthlessly as Stalingrad once did. A German machine gun nest opens fire from a second-floor window across the street. Soviet infantry scatter. Lobkovskaya tracks the muzzle flash, counts seconds between bursts. She fires once. The gun falls silent. This is the final evolution of the doctrine born years earlier in Odessa. Snipers no longer operate as lone hunters. They are integrated into assault groups, clearing paths through the city with single shots that save dozens of lives. German resistance stiffens in places, then collapses entirely in others. Snipers exploit hesitation. A man peeks from cover and never pulls back. Others learn not to look at all. The fear follows the Germans home. In cellars, defenders whisper about Soviet women with rifles, about shots that come without warning, about ruins that seem to watch. The irony is bitter and complete. For the women snipers, there is little satisfaction, only exhaustion. Many have been fighting since 1941. Their faces are older than their years. Their hands move automatically, performing drills learned long ago. Some pause briefly to think of those who did not make it this far, of friends buried under factories in Stalingrad, of trainees lost in nameless towns, of cities erased. The fighting grinds on street by street until finally it stops. May 2nd, 1945. Berlin falls. The rifles are lowered. The scopes are capped. Silence settles over ruins that will never be whole again. In the aftermath, statistics are compiled, medals awarded, names recorded, sometimes incorrectly, sometimes not at all. The official Soviet tally credits women snipers with tens of thousands of enemy casualties. The true number will never be known. What is known is this: they reshaped urban warfare on the Eastern Front. They forced one of the most professional armies in the world to change how it moved, how it thought, how it feared. And they did it from the shadows, from rubble and dust, from places no one thought to look. Long after the war, German veterans would speak of the Eastern Front with a particular unease. Of cities that felt alive. Of windows that could kill. They rarely mentioned names. But the women who waited in the ruins remember everything.